Well, it was 200 years ago tonight, Christmas Eve, the year 1818, that a young Catholic priest in a small Austrian village had written a poem. And he had asked the organist of that particular parish church if he would take this poem about Christmas and write some music so the congregation could sing it at the Christmas Eve service that night. The only problem was the organist informed the young priest that the organ was in fact broken. And these churches have challenges and have for years. And so here's what the priest said to the organist. All right, write the music, keep it simple, so that a guitarist can lead the congregation in singing this poem. And amazingly, in simply one day's worth of work, the organist, Franz Gruber, composed the music to the song we'll close our service with tonight, Silent Night. What's so beautiful about the song Silent Night is the simplicity of that song. It just pictures the scene of the incarnation, the scene of Christmas, and the Holy Family together, and the shepherds and the angels gathered around. And I love that because at its very core, Christmas is a very simple story. It's simply this: God gave a gift to the world in the person of Jesus Christ. And when you and I receive that gift, we are changed. We are transformed. I want to take a look at the Christmas story tonight from the New Testament book of Galatians. It's not the normal text of Matthew or Luke or something like that. It's rather a letter that was written about 30 years later. And it was written to be a very clear shot across the bow of religious people. And the book of Galatians hollers out, you are free. You are not a slave, you are free. The work of Jesus Christ in the incarnation, the perfect life, the death, the burial, and the resurrection has set his people free. And in the very middle of this book, writing so clearly and passionately about the freedom you and I have in Jesus Christ, freedom from regulation, freedom from ritual, freedom from guilt, freedom from shame, he pauses, the Apostle Paul, who's the author, pauses and reflects on how it is we receive our freedom. From Galatians chapter 4, verses 4 through 7, the Christmas story from the perspective of a next generation 30 years later. When the fullness of time had come, and here's the simple story, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, that he might redeem those who are under the law, so that we might receive the adoption as sons. And because you are sons, God has sent the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Abba's a term of endearment. Daddy might be an appropriate translation. So that, listen, here's the result of the Christmas story. So that you are no longer a slave, but you are a son. And if you are a son, then you are an heir, a joint heir with Christ. Here's the Christmas story in its simplicity. It begins, as it always does in our relationship with God taking the initiative. God sent a gift. He sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law. Jesus Christ, what we celebrate at Christmas. We celebrate what's called the incarnation. In other words, God stepped into the stream of human history. God, who is an eternal spirit, the creator, the sustainer, the judge of the universe, he stepped into human flesh. That's what incarnation means, to become in flesh. God, in the person of Jesus Christ, invaded, as it were, humanity. So that when Mary came up pregnant with God as the supernatural father of that child both fully divine, God throughout eternity, and fully human. God sent forth his Son, born of a woman. What you and I experience in our humanity, Jesus Christ experienced in his humanity. He knows what it's like to be in need. He knows what it's like to be a part of a loving family. and he knows what it's like to face rejection and conflict within that family. He understands what it's like to have around him a group of friends that love and support him. And he knows what it's like to be rejected, even betrayed and denied by those very same friends. When God sent a gift, he sent a gift in the person of his Son that can fully identify with who we are. God sent forth his Son. He sent him born of a woman so that Jesus is fully human. And then he sent him born under the authority or the custody of the law. Law is a powerful thing. Law speaks of our need. You see, you have to have laws because we are imperfect people. And the law says, do this so that it's the right thing we choose. Do this so that it's the good thing as we relate to other people. The only problem with law is it's powerless. The law is strong in the fact that it can identify right from wrong, but the law doesn't give us any power to live right from wrong. And so God sent Jesus. He was born of a woman. He was born under the authority of the law, and he did that for a purpose. Jesus never broke the law. He fulfilled in himself what you and I can never do, live out perfection. And yet, as you know how that story rolls out, and yet he died on the cross. Why did he do that? Why would the Son of God in flesh die? One who never broke the law? Why would he die under the law? So that, verse 5, he could redeem those who were under the law. God sent Jesus as a gift, not just to feel what we feel under human experience, not just to live what we feel, the pressure of keeping up with the law, but rather he sent him to do that so that he might redeem, and that is a powerful word. It speaks of making those who are enslaved, those who are under the impression or the tyranny of something, in this case, sin or guilt or separation, he pays a price to set them free. It's redeeming. Good example. Do you remember the Charlie Brown Christmas special? It's one of my favorite, right? You're all familiar with that one, aren't you, right? You know that one, Xander? Yeah? Okay. And so we saw this last week, and I haven't seen it in a few years, and I was so surprised at how smart it is. Here's the way it rolls out, if you haven't seen it in a few years like I hadn't until recently. Charlie Brown and all of his friends, it's coming up on Christmas, they're all kind of nervous about it, and there are some problems they face. And Charlie Brown in particular is like, I don't fit in. And I'm not sure what Christmas means. Early on in the movie, the scene is, I don't understand what Christmas is all about. And here's where the narrative of the movie goes. Lucy says, if you will direct the Christmas play, you'll understand Christmas. Snoopy, his dog, his beagle, is decorating up his doghouse for a competition, as if to say, well, if you'll just try a little harder to fit in with whatever culture is telling you ought to do while you're celebrating Christmas, you'll understand the meaning. So, let me see if I understand this right. Do some good works. Go direct a school play. After all, who in the world would want to do that, right? Or have the best doghouse on the block. Or, how about this? His directing of the Christmas play is a disaster. And if you've ever worked with students, you know what I'm talking about. They're dancing around playing that, and Linus is doing his blanket thing, and Schroeder is playing his piano, and Charlie Brown says, won't somebody please help me understand Christmas? And Lucy steps in helpfully to say, Charlie Brown, go get a Christmas tree. Go do some more. You've already failed at decorating your house. Your doghouse was better. You've already failed at directing the school play. The school play is a nightmare. And so therefore what you need to do is try something else. Go get a religious symbol, a Christmas tree, and go decorate it. And you know how that happens, right? He goes to get the worst Christmas tree in the entire Christmas tree lot. And he brings it back and they laugh at him. It's just one of those scenes where he's just standing there totally beaten. And at that moment, Linus, his friend, steps up to the center of the stage and he says, Charlie Brown, I can tell you the meaning of Christmas. And he reads this from Luke chapter 2. In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration when Quirinius was governor of Syria. And all went to be registered, each to his own town. And Joseph went up also from Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the line and the house of David. He went to be registered with Mary, his wife, who was with child. And while they were there, the time came for her to give birth. She gave birth to her firstborn, a son. Jesus was born of a woman, born under the law. They were in Bethlehem because of the law. And she wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. And then he goes on and he reads about the shepherds and the angels and all of that familiar stuff we know about Christmas. And he says, Charlie Brown, that's what Christmas means. That's so right. It's not been topped by any Christmas special about the clarity of that. Here is what Christmas means. God gave a gift. He sent His Son. His Son is one of us. He is born of woman as all of us were. And He was born under the expectation of law as all of us are. And He was born that He might redeem, He might buy us back from the slave market of sin and shame and separation. God sent Jesus to turn contract relationship into covenant. It's no longer about what can I do for God and somehow therefore earn His favor. No, it's rather, I sent my Son. What you need to be as part of the family. We've been called from rule keeping to redemption, from performance to promise keeping, from being far away to being family. In fact, that's what the whole point of Galatians chapter 4 is. He was born of woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as sons. So that the gift of Jesus Christ at Christmas was all about making those who were far away to be part of the family. Have you been following the Chicago Bears this year? It's okay, Christmas Eve, you can celebrate that win yesterday, right? Unless you're from Green Bay, and then we don't care. And so, and it's great. In fact, what I would call myself is a Chicago Bears fan. I love to watch their games. I love to cheer them on, and it's been fun to see a lot to cheer for this year. But what I'm not when it comes to the Chicago Bears is family. For 99 years, the Hallis McCaskey family has owned the Bears. I'm sure they're getting together tonight, or they're at church tonight and getting together tonight and tomorrow, and you and I are not invited to that because you and I are not family. So many people picture God as someone like the Bears owner, really powerful, kind of far away, and you're a fan. I'm for God. I want His side to win. In fact, I want to be on His side. God did not send Jesus to make you and me fans. God sent Jesus to make you and me family. And He slides back the chair and He says, come on up, be a part at my table. And for so many people, that is simply not their experience with God. Because I think so often we fail to recognize how dramatic Jesus Christ's gift is for us. He came to redeem those who are far away so that we might be family. So that we have the rights of sons and daughters, so we can call God our Father and mean it. Because you are sons, God sent His Spirit. So God sent His Son, and then His Son resurrected and ascended and is in glory. We're awaiting His return. But God also sent the Spirit of His Son. The Spirit is within resonance of every believer, and He gives us that recognition that we are sons and daughters. Because you're sons, God has sent the Spirit of His Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father, listen. Here's Christmas. Here's the meaning. Here's the simplicity. God sent a gift. And when we receive the gift, God changes us. You are no longer a slave, but a son. That's the gift. Fundamentally, your relationship with God has been changed. It's not distance and duty, it's family. You're not a fan, you're a part of the family of God. That is because of the gift of Jesus Christ that happened that first Christmas night. And if you're a son, then you're an heir. Meaning all that God provides for Jesus, he provides for us. I want to challenge us as we close this message. God sent a gift. When we receive the gift, he changes us. I want to challenge you as we close our service by lighting this candle, and we're going to light, and then the whole room will be lit up just by the candle. 2 challenges for you. First of all, for some of you, you've had a mind change tonight. Wait a minute, you're not talking about religion or ritual or going to Christmas Eve service because mom or dad or grandma wants me to. You're talking about a relationship. You're saying God took initiative in my situation. The answer to that is yes. And when you believe the simple truth that Jesus Christ, God's gift, stepped into the stream of humanity for the purpose of redeeming, for buying us back from our loss and giving us the gain of being in his family. When you believe that, God makes you, he adopts you into his family as a son, as a daughter. Will you believe that? We light the candle here in a few moments. Will you recognize Jesus is the light of the world? And when you believe that, and the candle can be a reminder of your commitment of faith, when you believe that, God changes, he transforms. And then for the majority of the folks in the room tonight, I know you know exactly what I mean when I say trust Christ as Lord. You've done that, some of you many years ago. You've walked that path of faith. Can I call you to be a part of something bigger than your Christmas celebration? In this world in which we live, which is increasingly in turmoil and dark and in chaotic, as we light the candle and look at it in this dark room and just see all of the candles lit, will you choose to act out as a son and daughter of God? Will you choose to be a light in your circumstances? Where you have influence in the home and on the job? I'm inviting you to do something good for someone and then to speak up and say, this is because you're a follower of Jesus Christ. I'm inviting you to step in, not hold back. Step in and help or assist someone who's in great need, and do it because Jesus Christ calls us to do that. When I became a Christian as a 17-year-old, God transformed me. I'd gone to church. I knew the stories. I just didn't realize the personal connection that was for me. My mom's faith became my faith. And before I became a Christian, I had a little problem with stealing things. It was kind of a game for me. I've been caught a few times at different stores, but mostly I got away with it. And God began to convict me as my heart was changed. And I went back to an old store. You may know the name if you're older. It's a store called Kmart. I know, they're not around anymore, but... And I asked to see the manager. And I handed him it was like $5, right? I think I stole a case of gum or something. And he said, oh, thank you, man, I appreciate that. Guilty conscience goes a long way, doesn't it? And I said, I'm 17. I said, I don't have a guilty conscience. I've recently put my faith in Jesus Christ, and what I did was wrong, and I wanted you to hear that God changed me. I just want you to know that. And he's like, okay. I'm not asking that you be perfect. I'm not asking that your light somehow, change the world. I'm saying, will you have one conversation with someone? Maybe it's about your own shortcomings. And will you give the credit to Jesus Christ? Be the light for that. I'm going to invite our worship team back up front now. We're going to sing that great hymn, Silent Night. I invite my wife. She's going to help me. We're going to light just one candle on the end. And then will you turn and light the candle over the person next to you? What you're going to find is one person lighting a small light, as that's multiplied many, many hundreds of times, it'll light up a room. This is what God calls us to do this Christmas Eve and all of the next year. Will you stand and join me now?